Alright, so buckle up, history buffs. We're about to dive into the wild world of the Hittites. You know, that ancient superpower that history forgot about. I mean, seriously, these guys were like the cool kids of the ancient Near East for a hot minute and then, poof, gone faster than you can say chariot racing. So picture this. It's around 1600 BCE, and while everyone's busy obsessing over Egypt and Mesopotamia, this group of Indo-Europeans decides to set up shop in what's now Turkey. They're like, hey, this Anatolia place looks pretty sweet. Let's, build an empire or whatever. And boy, did they ever. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hittites. Sounds like a brand of, ancient breakfast cereal or something. But trust me, these folks were the real deal. They were basically the ancient world's version of that kid in high school who was good at everything. The one everyone secretly hated but also kinda wanted to be. For starters, these Hittites were pretty darn good at the whole war thing. I mean, they had chariots that would make Fast and Furious look like a kiddie ride. And get this, they were so feared that when the Syrians heard what sounded like a Hittite army coming, they straight up ran away. Talk about reputation, right? But here's the kicker. The Hittites weren't just muscle-bound war machines. Nah, these guys had brains too. They were, the ancient world's polyglots. Seriously, they were juggling languages like a circus act. Hittite, Luwian, Palaic, Hattic. It's enough to make your average Duolingo user weep. And don't even get me started on their laws. You know how most ancient civilizations were all an eye for an eye and stuff? Well, the Hittites were more like, how about we just, pay a fine or something? They had this whole legal code that was surprisingly chill for the time. I mean, slaves had rights and could work their way to freedom. It's like they were running some kind of ancient work release program. Now, you might be wondering, if these Hittites were so great, why haven't I heard of them? Well, funny story about that. You see, for the longest time, historians were like, Hittites? Yeah, right. Next, you'll be telling us Atlantis was real. The only mention of them was in the Bible. And let's just say that wasn't exactly considered the most reliable historical source. But then, in the 19th century, some smarty-pants archaeologists started digging around in Turkey and Syria, and they were like, holy cow, these Hittites were actually a thing. It was like finding out that your imaginary childhood friend was real all along. The real game changer came when they discovered Hattusa, the Hittite capital. And let me tell you, this place was no joke. We're talking massive walls, secret tunnels, and a population of up to 50,000. It was like the ancient version of a superhero's secret lair, only, with more clay tablets and fewer capes. Speaking of clay tablets, the Hittites were apparently really into their paperwork. They left behind thousands of these things, covering everything from treaties to weather forecasts. It's like they were the original bureaucrats, only with better handwriting. But here's where things get really wild. The Hittites were so powerful that they actually went toe-to-toe with Egypt. Yeah, that Egypt. The one with the pyramids and the mummies and all that jazz. In 1274 BCE, they fought the Egyptians to a standstill at the Battle of Kadesh. And then, in true Hittite fashion, they were like, you know what? This fighting is exhausting. Let's just sign a peace treaty and call it a day. And that's exactly what they did, creating what's considered the world's first known peace treaty. Now, you'd think after all this, the Hittites would be, set for life, right? Ruling the ancient world, sipping whatever passed for margaritas back then, living the good life. But history had other plans. You see, around 1200 BCE, things started going south for our Hittite friends. And when I say south, I mean oh no, the barbarians are at the gates and everything's on fire, south. It was part of this whole Bronze Age collapse thing. Imagine if the internet, the stock market, and the government all crashed at the same time, and you'll get the idea. Nobody's quite sure exactly what happened. Maybe it was climate change, maybe it was invasions, maybe the Hittites just collectively decided to take an extended vacation. Whatever the cause, the Hittite Empire went from superpower to super not here anymore in record time. And just like that, poof, the Hittites were gone, vanishing from history faster than your dad when it's time to do the dishes. For centuries, they were forgotten, relegated to the dusty corners of history books, if they were mentioned at all. But here's the thing about the Hittites. They might have been forgotten, but their legacy lived on. I mean, these guys were innovators. They were working with iron when everyone else was still figuring out bronze. They had this whole storm god thing going on that probably made Thor jealous. And let's not forget their contribution to the culinary world. They might have been the first to cultivate cherries. So next time you're enjoying a cherry pie, raise a fork to the Hittites. In the end, the story of the Hittites is like that one-hit wonder you can't quite remember the name of. You know it was awesome. You know it was important. But for some reason, it just slipped through the cracks of history. But hey, that's why we have archaeologists, right? These modern-day Indiana Joneses are still out there, digging up new Hittite sites and deciphering more of those clay tablets. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll uncover the ancient Hittite equivalent of Twitter and find out what they really thought about their neighbors. So there you have it, the Hittites, the superpower that history forgot. They came, they saw, they conquered, and then they, well, got conquered themselves. But for a while there, they were the biggest thing since sliced bread, which, incidentally, they probably invented too. Next time someone tries to impress you with their knowledge of ancient history, you can be like, yeah, Egypt's cool and all, but have you heard about the Hittites? Trust me, it's a great conversation starter at parties. Just, maybe not at parties where people actually want to have fun. And who knows, maybe one day, the Hittites will get the Hollywood treatment. I can see it now. Hattusa, the Fast and the Furious, Chariot Drift, coming soon to a theater near you. Until then, let's raise a toast to the Hittites, the original badasses of the ancient world. May they never be forgotten. Again.